Hello, welcome back. We're spreading the net this week. Football and basketball are featured with Mike Tuckley, Sheffield Sharks captain, with Dave Hampshire, secretary of Penistone Church Football Club, and with Graham as well, Graham Furness of Stocksbridge Park Steels, the chairman. We've heard about their hardships in part one, but we've also heard some promise for the future. James Gregg joining us as well. Now then, I mean, you've had a particularly hard year because for the most part, you've had bugger all to talk about, have you, really? But there's a suggestion it's all going to come back to you now, hopefully.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, look, it's been really strange, Alan. I mean, even watching on the telly, it's not quite the same, is it? I'm sure our gents here will attest to. And it must be really weird for you, Mike, actually, as well, having played a little bit in an empty arena, because that's not what you got into the game for, is it, Mike?
No, like we talked about in part one, it's just there's no atmosphere, and every game just feels like a pickup game. There's the biggest thing I've noticed though is that there's no home court advantage whatsoever, and the away games are great because it's super quiet. You can, it's really easy to communicate on the court and things like that. But it's tough though because there's no atmosphere, so you have to kind of create your own.
The one thing you and I have noticed, James, is the pickup of interest in non-league football. Since I started going regularly about 6 years ago and had my eyes open to how exciting a game is, how wholesome the atmosphere is, how it's a purer football spectacle, I think the wider public have cottoned on to that too this year. Is that the way you see it as well? That rightly the game has had a focus on it at that level?
I think so, yeah, mainly because people have just been hankering after watching a ball go into the back of the net, watching a rough challenge, shouting at a referee, whatever it may be, that gets them through sort of a match on a Saturday, having a pint, seeing friends. I think actually people, they call themselves Sheffield United. I'll get a bit of flack for this, but a lot of people call them Sheffield United fans or Sheffield Wednesday fans or Barnsley fans or whoever it is. But I think actually a lot of them are just football fans. And I think that's quite a nice thing. And I think people actually just enjoy going to the football. And yeah, if you can nail your colours to the mast and support a team through thick and thin, that's great. But I think people actually do just love going and watching football league at any level. So yeah, I'm sure these gents will attest to that when the lockdown lifted and people could actually come and watch, Stocksbridge and Penistone and Sheffield and Hallam and Worksop and whoever else. It was great. And Sheffield FC, all the teams that we cover up on our roundup. I mean, the attendances were astounding, and they probably would have been even more had they not actually put a cap on it. So I hope that does continue when fans are sort of filtering back into the Football League grounds as well.
Graham, do you think you've hooked people for the future? I know that traditionally, if Wednesday aren't at home, you might put in a few owls. But looking at the level of your crowds, do you have hope that maybe a trend has started here?
I'd like to think so, Alan. I mean, it is good value for money, at non-league level. I mean, we're like £8 and £5, and children under 12 is free. That's the advert in Alan, by the way. But it is good value for money, and we are gradually building. We have noticed over the last season and a bit that our crowds have been building anyway. But yeah, they are too. We said at the time, it's not getting them in; it's keeping them in there and getting them coming back. And hopefully, we have sold more season tickets this year actually from people who are a little bit disgruntled with the poor game. And
why are they disgruntled with it? Do you think, Graham?
I think one or two things that are going off with some of the local clubs, cost of it, other things that are happening off the pitch. I think one or two have been a little bit disgruntled, and obviously, and now they can't go in. I think they've just seen this as a good opportunity to do something different, and go and watch a team. The atmosphere for one of the last games we played up there was superb. They really got behind our lads, and it was great. And hopefully we can continue that when we can go back. It's been hard actually to offer a kind of a good match day experience because we've not been able to use the bar facilities, obviously. So that's not helped. But people have come in, they've used the snack bar facilities, which is good. But when you can get the whole package, as I said, for what it costs to come into the ground, and I know Dave it's the same up at Penistone. It's a great atmosphere up at Penistone, and
well, bring Dave in on that. It's very much pie and pint territory, isn't it, Penistone? And you've got some great facilities there behind the scenes as well. You've got a clubhouse there. In fact, you've got almost like a VIP room where companies can entertain guests. But on the field as well, you're offering almost a cheat-free spectacle, a play-acting-free spectacle on there, the way the game is played. Is that important as well?
I think that's one of the things that people are getting fed up with, Alan. You see all these people, these players, they're on 5 protein drinks a day, and they give it all the big licks when they score and get the body out, and then the first time somebody touches them, they're rolling about all over the place, and people get fed up with that. And like you say, it is a good, honest game. You come to a non-league and you're allowed to tattle, and it makes for a good atmosphere, And like Greg said there, you're allowed to, people come just to vent the feelings to the referee and whatever, But yeah, it is good to get out there on a Saturday or a midweek.
Yeah, very enjoyable experience. We're going to come to James Gregg's roundup in a minute, but we must acknowledge before we do, Mike Tuck, Atiba Lions and this incredible record. You were telling me before we started here, I think he's now been with Sheffield Sharks one way or the other. Is it for 13 seasons? Am I right?
13 seasons as a head coach, and then a couple more as a player before that. But when he first took the reins, he was player coach, and I arrived in his second season as coach. So I got to play, alongside him, but also he's been the gaffer for 500 games, which he just celebrated on last Sunday. So more remarkable achievement for Atiba. He's only the 4th coach in British Basketball League history to achieve this, and I believe he's the youngest coach to do it as well. So so happy for the guy. He's been here since the start for me. Great guy. We get along really well. I've got I owe him everything for him, having me on in the first place and then keeping me on and putting up with me for all these years. But 500 matches, yeah, just absolutely insane achievement. We presented him with a framed jersey with a big 500 on the back of it on Sunday before the game. So yeah, like I said, hats off to him.
Well, it's unbelievable, certainly in the environment in which I work, where a football head coach or manager will do well to go 2 or 3 years. To go 13, is that because there's more sanity in your world, or is it because you've largely been successful over the years?
I think it's a mix of the both. It's the basketball world, the British basketball world is not as harsh, I would say, as the football world. In football, you have 1 or 2 bad months and they'll be tossing you to the side. So in basketball, there's a little bit more leniency. They'll stick with you for a couple seasons, and you have to give it to Atiba. We've had success. He's won four majors, 4 major pieces of silverware since he's been here, and we've been runner-up in countless other things. So we're always that team that's in the mix and in the top half of the league. So he's done well, and we've got a great organization, a family organization that puts a lot of trust in him. So the whole atmosphere and the whole way it works is a great thing.
Okay, we'll come in a moment onto the managers of Penistone Church and also Stocksbridge Park Steels, who are also quite long-serving relatively, but not matching Atiba Lions. But before that, James Gregg has got something to say, finally.
Well, yes, I know. Yeah, well, we've heard from Stocksbridge and Penistone Church, of course, who regularly feature on this roundup. But what about Hallam FC the other night, who won 4-3 over AFC Blackpool in the first round of the FA Vars. That is continuing at the moment. Remarkable, really, that Kieran Watson scored a hat-trick, having not really been able to do any contact training or anything. They've got Shildon in the next round of the competition, a match that will be taking place on Saturday with no fans able to attend, of course. But because of that, they're going to be showing it on a live stream. They've put a link on their website and on their Twitter as well. That's coming this Saturday, and they'll be posting that all over their social channels. So if you do fancy watching some football and seeing how Hallam get on, that's the way that you can do it. Their next league game, just to mark your card, hopefully, with fans back allowed in, is against Armthorpe on the 2nd of Jan. Sheffield FC as well. They'll next, hopefully, be playing against Belper Town away from home. That's on Boxing Day. Steelers, no news on the English Ice Hockey League returning as yet, but you can take a look at this as I stumbled across it on the website. A 30-minute documentary made by ITV Yorkshire Television that was following the Steelers on their Continental Cup trip to Helsinki in Finland. On the Steelers website, you can the head coach at the time, Sir Alex Dampier, led the team, who were looking to become the first British club to take a point in this competition. So if you're looking for a trip down memory lane, that is the way you can do it. Head to the Steelers website. It's great. Some brilliant footage on there as well. I had a little flick through that just before we came on air now. Also, Matthew Fitzpatrick and Danny Willett, both on a golfing front. They're in action at the season-ending DP World Championships in Dubai. Both are previous winners of that tournament, of course. And also, just need to mark your card on this one. Friend of the programme, Tommy Frank, the boxer from Sheffield, endured a bit of a nightmare March time because he'd won a shot at the World Flyweight title. That's the IBO sanctioned version of the World Flyweight title. It was meant to take place in March. It was geared up for it. He'd been on a pre-season camp to Tenerife. He was properly going for it. There was press everywhere. He'd sold out the Ponds Forge, I think it was meant to be, the arena, and it was cancelled because of the lockdown. So anyway, he finally gets his shot at it. And his first outing of this year, unbelievably, it takes place tomorrow, Friday, December the 11th, when he meets Mexico's Hugo Goneiros on the UK's first ever drive-in boxing show, live on Eurosport. So that's taking place right outside the arena. Tickets still left as well. It'll be a complete novelty. The way it works is, I'm led to believe, you park your car, there's two massive screens, and you can see the ring as well. So it's absolutely brilliant. You can take some snacks, sit in the car park there. A really innovative way from Dennis Hobson and his team as well to come up with that. And it is live on Eurosport. So good luck to Tommy as well. He's 13 wins, 0 losses so far in his career. And we could have a new world champion in Sheffield for boxing. So that's very exciting stuff. And that is on Friday, the 11th of December.
That's a great story to end the roundup, and very best wishes to Tommy Frank. And he has promised to come back in here when he's the champion. And I say come back in here. He was
into your house, Alan. Yeah.
yeah. He's welcome to my house. I've got a job for him as a minder. Definitely. He can be a minder for me when I get owls and blades arguing over who I support. But he did come into the studio. I think he was one of the last people that was able to come into the studio before all this happened, as I recall.
Yeah.
So let's just reflect, though, now. And you mentioned golf there, James, and you're very close to golf. We'll start with Peter Alliss, come on to Alex Sabella in a minute. We've lost both of these two sporting legends very, very sadly this week. I mean, first of all, Peter Alliss, look, I'm not a golf enthusiast to the level that you are, but my word, when I've watched it, and I like watching it, I've loved Peter Alliss and his dry, droll sense of humour, always knowing the right thing to say. And you would have worked in close proximity to him, James.
Yes, I have. Yeah, and it was only bizarre, when the Masters was on a couple of weeks ago. Well, when was it? Last month, from Augusta, he was doing the BBC highlights from home. And I was walking past this, I was sort of in there, sort of doing it from the radio side, and was sort of walking around the desks. And sure enough, Andrew Cotter, Ken Brown, and then on via a video link was Peter Alliss. And it was one of those things where I thought I'd love to go in and just sort of talk to him whilst he was up on the video link, and he wasn't doing very much. And I didn't. And actually, I kind of regret that now. And he's got links to Sheffield himself, Peter Alliss. His dad, Percy, was the assistant at Hallamshire Golf Club years ago. His dad is, of course, a Ryder Cup player and a legend of the game himself. So it's very, very sad. And also, what an amazing broadcaster. And you actually think now, the prose in which he's spoken, with this sort of beautiful, buttery, silky way of making it all flow, and you hung off every word. You don't really get broadcasters like that now, who, people wouldn't last 2 minutes if you came on and started sort of talking about all the things he used to talk about and in the way that he did. People would kind of view it as a little bit kind of too Shakespearean. But he was wonderful, really good, and very sadly missed. But I mean, what a great career he had, and the fact he was working until last month was, credit to him, really.
One of the greats of the commentary box, and I think of Richie Benno of cricket. Was an international cricketer with Australia, and then became a world-class commentator. You've got to say the same about Peter Allis. Will be very much missed, as will Alex Sabella. Now, of course. It's no secret, a fan of Sheffield United yourself, James, long before you were born. But during the earlier part of my career, something very unusual happened, and Sheffield United signed a player from Argentina amid great excitement and fanfare, and that player was Alex Sabella. Briefly, people told us, oh, no, it's Sabella, you've got to pronounce it Sabella. We went back to Sabella. It didn't matter, because the guy, for all the difficulties he had in adjusting, simply had twinkly feet, and he starred both for the Blades and for Leeds. I'm very sad to hear of his very premature passing this week. James, thank you very much indeed. I know that you've got other work to do. When I say work, you'll be expecting me to pay you, which of course I can't. But it's a pleasure, as always.
Thank you, guys, and good luck as well to everybody, to all the clubs and stuff as well, because I know it's a really testing time. So hopefully when we return, we've got some scores to read out, which is good. So take it easy.
And let's hope that by the spring, we're in that studio and we can leave that studio, cross the road, and there's a certain pub that we like to meet in and debrief. Let's hope we're doing that in 2021, because I am not carrying on Zoom indefinitely, and I know that you're not either, and none of us are. Get rid of this. Okay, James, thanks.
Cheers, guys.
Let's go back to Dave Hampshire and Graham Furness, and also Mike Tuck. Mike, is there a Peter Allis equivalent in basketball in terms of commentary? Or could it be you one day?
Well, yeah. I mean, funny you say. The British Basketball League has just inked a deal with Sky Sports to return to Sky Sports. The first match was a doubleheader last week on Thursday, which actually we were the first match in. It was the Sheffield Sharks versus the Cheshire Phoenix. And there's been quite a few people. There's been two players from the league, myself and another one named Drew Lasker, who plays at Newcastle, who have been added into the pundits, and a former player named Kieran Achara, who played for the Glasgow Rocks for years. He also captained the GB basketball team for quite a long time. So we're all kind of in the mix with punditry, and we'll be stepping into those roles for all the Sky Sports games. I think they're doing about 30 games this season, and they've signed a 2-year deal, so it'll go into next year as well. So it's exciting to have basketball back on Sky on a major platform, and we're just hoping to see that it takes off, and then we get the numbers that it deserves.
Indeed. And can I say that if you don't go into coaching, you'd make an excellent commentator and communicator, presenter, whatever, as well. Right, but I'm sure we're talking about 20 years into the future, because you're a baby still, aren't you?
I'm a bit of a dinosaur as a player, so.
Well, I tell you what, you've got a great mentor for a career as well in Atiba Lyons, who we talked about just now. You must have learned so much from him over the years. Yeah,
like I said, I mean, we've got a great relationship, and I owe everything to him, because he's, like I said, he's managed to put up with me all these years and keep me on. And the club, decided to make me captain about 3 years in. So I've just learned a lot, having to, step up and be a leader on this team, and then learn a lot from Atiba and just, how he coaches and how he leads. So yeah, it's been an incredible experience.
Great. Well, let's just talk about the managers of the two non-league clubs that we're featuring this week. I mean, Chris Hilton has been for some time, I think, at Stocksbridge Park Steels. It's got a great record there. And Ian Richards, assisted by his brother Duncan at Penistone Church. Graham, first of all, I mean, there is a turnover of managers at your level. I think over the years that I've been taking a close interest, Hallam must have had about 5 or 6. I think Sheffield FC have had 5 or 6. But you're keeping some continuity going there.
Yeah, Chris has been there, I think, going into his 7th season now. And he's done a great job, to be fair, in that time. I mean, there's only one season, I think, when he's not been involved around the playoff spot. Last year, which was frustrating for him going into March, we were in 7th spot, chasing the playoffs and with all the clubs around him to play, you know. So he had a great opportunity last year, had it not been curtailed. I mean, my first job as chairman was to reduce his budget. Because it just wasn't sustainable at the time, through different reasons, you know. So we had to reduce his budget, but he took it on the chin. Majority of the players took it on the chin, and last year produced some great performances, you know. And as I said, we're up there pushing for promotion. He understands budgets, Chris. He understands a non-league game, and that's a big thing. And he gets performances out of players. He's got a good group of players together that knit together, that do fight for one another. You know, I mean, the biggest joke we have with Chris is because he always gets knocked out of the FA Cup first round. That's always a standing joke, which we keep reminding him, and he keeps telling us not to do. But yeah, he's never got. I mean, he's had good runs in the FA Trophy over the last few years. Not this year, but over the last.
But the FA Cup is where the money's at, isn't it? That's where the money's at.
Yeah. I mean, the daft thing this year, we played in the trophy this year, and by the time we paid the opposition's expenses, travelling expenses, and the officials, the referees, we were out of pocket. I said to our secretary, it's not worth being in it. It cost us nearly 800 quid, you know, just to pay expenses, you know. And I'm thinking, what's all that about? You know, it takes some finding, you know. Yeah. And I mean, again, as I said, going back to what we're talking about in the first half, Alan, we have, apart from the sponsors that we've got, we have managed to secure another sponsor for the reserves, which is good. But the advertisers that are with us, you know, you feel guilty asking them for their money at the moment. So moving forward, you know, because some of the firms have not, you know, they've all been shut down. They're furloughing staff. So, you know, can we expect them really to pay for advertising? So that's what I'm saying. Some of these grants could have to last well into next season, because if they extend this season into June, you're cutting down then what you can do pre-season, because you'll be back, you'll be starting again. So it's important that you get a manager that does understand the budget and then that side of it, you know. And Chris is good at that.
Let's go to Dave Hampshire and see if Ian Richards understands his budget at Penistone, and another very successful manager, obviously.
He has to understand it, Alan. We're not the biggest payers in the league by a long, long way. And he does understand it, to be fair to him. He knows what we can afford. He'd like a lot more, you know, when he goes for players and he's offering them what we pay, and then they're getting sort of 80, £100 at a club in a lower league than us. You know, it's frustrating for him. But no, he understands what we can afford to pay. And to be fair to him, he's took it on board, like Graham said about Chris. He's took it on board and he's built a very, very good squad around what we can afford. And by building the squad, he's also got the right personnel in for the mentality of them, you know, and the togetherness and that. And the atmosphere in our changing room, when I go in, I just bob my head in from time to time, is brilliant. They're all together. They fight for one another off the pitch, and then off the pitch, you know, they have this fine money and what have you. And then at the end of the season, which they couldn't do this one, but the season before, they all went to Benidorm, or I think they were going to Barcelona this time, or whichever way around. And they all go, you know, after the game, they all come into the bar. They've got to do. There were just the odd one that used to go and not come in, but the rule is between them, you've got to come in, and that's what Ian's built up. Besides building up a very good team on the field, he's built up a fantastic atmosphere with the help of the like Andy Ring and Brett Lovell and Danny House, the captain. You know, they make sure that changing room's right. But he's got the right characters, and when he goes to sign a player now, when he looks at a player, he sort of looks at, will they fit in to our dressing room? And will they accept the minimum amount that we pay or the maximum? There's no different in it. They all get very same. I think we pay a little bit more to some who travel, but that's it. You know, we can't pay the 100s, the 120s, like the 80s, the 70s. We can't afford to pay that. So
great spirit that, and being ordered to the bar. I like that as well.
Definitely.
I think Mike Tuck would take that as well, but I think those basketball lads, they're far too professional. I'm not sure.
It's compulsory. It's compulsory.
Well, look, whichever way you get your pleasure and your entertainment, I hope there's plenty of cheer going around over the festive season. I want to thank, I think this will be our last programme of 2020, unless I surprise myself by organising one next week. At the moment, there's one in the pipeline. So I want to thank, first of all, Mike Tuck, Sheffield Sharks skipper, Dave Hampshire of Penistone Church FC, and also Graham Furness of Stocksbridge Park Steels for coming on, along with James Gregg, and making this a great show to end 2020. I want to thank everybody who's been loyal to this show during the year and has supported us in very difficult and challenging circumstances, especially to my producer, Greg Burak, who does all the technical wizardry behind it. I said to him, how on earth am I going to present this show from home? He said, well, you will do, he says, because I'm going to produce it from my home. I don't know how it works, but it seems to. So in the meantime, have a great Christmas, a very happy New Year to you, and look forward to seeing you in 2021. See you then. Bye-bye.